Great, thank you. And I want to welcome everybody to the first meeting of 2022 of MCB1's Transportation and Street Activity Permit Committee. I'm joined by Lucian Reynolds, our district manager, as well as Michael Francoeur, my co-chair. And if you go to the next one, Michael's handling my slides for me.
Lucian, do you hear me, Lucian?
Loud and clear, Mitchell.
Okay, because I don't see any video. I know, sorry to bother Betty. I was trying to, I'm not on my computer.
Try changing apps to put the WebEx in the front. So try clicking on the WebEx icon again.
Yeah. Okay.
Mitch, we can work on tech support offline.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Because yeah, I would like to get going on this. We have 4 items tonight. 2 of them are carry-ons from last month, so hopefully we can move on them rather expeditiously. But it looks like all 4 are going to have resolutions, so I do beg all of you to stay on to help we keep quorum. We'll try to keep this direct and to the point so that we don't keep you on too long. If you go to the next one, I'd like to start the meeting with inviting Virginia Tong to come on and speak about the request she filed to co-name the northeast corner of Walker and Center Streets. And I know she's on.
Yes, I'll bring her over now.
Great, thanks.
Virginia, you can unmute yourself and turn on your webcam if you wish.
No. Unmute. Oops. Oops, it's not doing that.
It's okay. Video isn't necessary. As long as we hear you for the record. Yeah.
All right, there you go. Okay, hi. Good evening, everyone. I think I'm joined today by members of my group, and they'll be speaking later. I'm not able to see, so I guess as when I'm finished with my presentation, I'll introduce the next one, the other folks who will speak, and hopefully they'll be able to get on. Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity to present to you our application for the street co-naming of the north east corner of Walker and Center Street to Harold Louis Way. My name is Virginia Tong. Before I retired in 2018, I was the director of cultural competence at NYU Langone Hospital, Brooklyn. I had known Harold for over 40 years. He was my supervisor at the Chinatown Planning Council and the Chinatown Health Clinic, now the Charles B. Wang Health Center. Harold was a second-generation Chinese American who grew up on Park Street, now called Moscow Street. He was a graduate of City College and Hunter College School of Social Work in the 1960s, and he was driven to bring justice and resources to the community and was instrumental in establishing many new organizations and agencies, such as the Chinatown Planning Council and Chinatown Health Clinic, now the Charles B. Wang Health Center, while working at Hamilton Madison House. Harold was involved in numerous boards, many local and national organizations, including the Chinese History Project, now the Museum of Chinese Americans, Henry Street Settlement, the Asian American Pacific Islander Forum, New York Urban Coalition, Organization of Chinese Americans, New York Chapter, Community Health Centers of New York State, Chongpak Local Development Corporation, just to name a few. Most importantly, I cherish Harold for his leadership and mentorship of the many social workers and leaders of the generation that followed. In fact, most of the members of our committee are social workers who benefited from his guidance and his tutelage. He hired and mentored us through our careers, always with the goal of increasing services to the community and enhancing them. It's no accident that many of us went on to lead our own agencies and organizations. He was a teacher. He officially taught at City College in the Asian Studies Department. In fact, Margaret Chin was his student. But unofficially, he taught us about developing partnerships and building coalitions. A devout family man, he taught us about how to balance family and work life and the importance of taking care of yourself so you could help others. I worked with Harold when he was the executive director of the Chinatown Health Clinic in the early 1990s. He worked with the board to raise over $3 million to move from the 3,000 square foot space on Baxter Street to the 11,000 square foot space, which is now at 125 Walker Street. This is the space that also houses Chinatown Planning Council's daycare center, as well as the Chong Pak Senior Housing. Naming the corner of Walker and Center Street is a small token of the appreciation for a man who spent his life and career for the improvement of the community and the generations thereafter. His impact has been felt by many, and this is a fitting tribute to his legacy. I don't know if you want us to take questions now, or should I ask the next speaker to speak? Okay, or
Seeing no hands up, so if you'd like to ask, and then I could get to the point.
Betty, I don't know how to put my hand up, so I'll.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I see it. So Mitch, please speak.
Charles, like I said, I don't know Victoria. I think that was her name, and I just would say, anybody that had anything to do with starting or helping Charles B. Wang, they're a jewel in this community. They've helped people that I know personally that could afford and couldn't afford to pay. And so if this person was instrumental in Charles B. Wang, and I said, I have no knowledge of this person, I have no knowledge of the speaker, but it's a jewel. And I would be for anything that would give more recognition to people that were instrumental in doing Charles B. Wang.
thank you.
Thank you. Pat Moore?
I know that we have already established rules and regulations about co-naming. So have you referred to those rules, Betty and Lucian, before we proceed?
Yes, and they're on the next slide, but this person has met, we don't even bring them to committee unless they've met at least the minimum, although there's discretion, but here are the guidelines.
Thank you.
And Ms. Tong, if you would like to invite someone else to speak,
Yes, thank you.
that's with you.
The next speaker is Larry Lee. Larry, are you on?
So Larry, I'm requesting for you to unmute your microphone. So you may see a dialog box pop up. Okay, Larry. You should. Alternatively, you can just unmute yourself now. Virginia, you might want to move on to your next speaker.
Okay.
When Larry comes back, they'll let us know.
Okay, I will. The next speaker is Kao O. Kao, are you on?
I see. Okay, you can unmute yourself now, Cal.
Hello.
Hello, we can hear you.
Yeah, hi. My name is Kao O. I'm currently the board chair of Hamilton Madison House. We are also very proud to have our senior center located in Community District 1, which is the oldest center serving Chinese seniors in the city.
Dinoya? Were you holding him down?
Go ahead.
Sorry.
I have known Harold Loy for more than 30 years. He was always interested in talking and sharing his experiences with younger generations of social workers and community advocates like myself. That was how I first met him, and I have always appreciated his wisdom, insights, and support over the years. During the mid to late 1990s, I served on the board with Harold on the board of the Chinatown History Project, which has become now the Museum of Chinese in America. At the time, the organization was probably at its lowest point due to serious financial challenges. Harold's leadership as the board chair instilled confidence and motivated extraordinary teamwork among the board and staff members to pull the museum out of crisis. Harold Louis may not be a household name. His name is probably unfamiliar to today's young people and new immigrants. However, there's no doubt that what Harold has done for the community has had lasting impact, which is still felt today. So I believe that street co-naming in honor of Harold would be a very meaningful act to remember this proud son of Chinatown, Harold Louis. Thank you so much.
Any questions for Cal? Okay, is Larry back on? I don't know. Lucian, are you able to find Larry?
Larry is on. Wait, I moved Larry over. Now Larry is not on the list. Maybe Larry's computer locked up. He's not. Let me refresh. Hold on. Yeah, I'm not seeing Larry on either list, attendees or panelists right
He
now.
said he was kicked off and he can't get back.
Well, yeah, I don't know. That wasn't me.
I will ask the next person to speak and then maybe we can get Larry back on later. Hong Xing Li. Hong, are you on?
You can unmute yourself now, Hong Xing.
Hi, I'm Hong Xing Li. I'm Executive Director of Chinatown Manpower Project, CMP. CMP actually is a workforce and economic development organization serving the Lower Manhattan community. Well, this year is our 50th anniversary. I am half a generation behind most of the speakers, so I don't have the benefit or privilege to work with Harold directly, but I have the benefit and privilege working with his protege, which including today's speaker, and Larry is another mentor of mine. So through them, I know of Harold's, he's a legend to me. And we do overlap some of the years of service, and I do make acquaintance of Harold. He's always kind and gentle and gives me pointers in my career, in my professional growth. But I think the most I can add to his bio is my own personal experience. You see, I'm not only a nonprofit professional, but I'm also a patient of the Charles B. Wang Community Health Center. And when I go to the community health center to see my doctor, I don't announce myself. I just go in almost like a secret shopper. And under his leadership, the staff, down to the very part-time receptionist, are very professional and courteous. And I think that is really the result of Harold's leadership and his management style. In fact, I actually, when I was working with the YMCA, I saw one of his staff from the receptionist school. And I think that is speaks a lot of how Harold manage the organization, how Harold a lot of emphasis not only on the top level growth services, but also the frontline staff in terms of customer service, in terms of care to the patient. No one knows who I am. No one knows that I'm also in the field, but everyone gave me the utmost courtesy. And I think that speaks volumes of Harold and his management style and his value as a professional social worker. Thank you.
Okay. Our last person is to get Larry, if Larry is on. Lucian?
Yeah, I'm taking a look. It takes a second to
Oh,
read.
I'm sorry. That's okay.
Yeah. So is Larry on as a dial-in on the phone?
I don't.
Perhaps. Oh, wait, hold on.
He said they were.
I have 4 phone calls.
It said is Larry was asking for a passcode, and I gave him MCB1,
That's right.
and I haven't heard back from him, so I don't know if he was able to get in.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'll keep refreshing. I'll let you know if Larry.
I don't know if there are any other questions from the committee other than Larry. He was our last speaker.
There are some hands up, but I have one general question first. Actually, I have a couple of them. One of them is, I felt like I was reading a resume when I read it versus a nomination. And in fact, I found later online that it was an obituary that's been published in a couple of different websites where he worked. Most of his achievements were accomplished by organizations where he was employed or was associated with as a part of a group. Because some of the pivotal accomplishments that that can be attributed uniquely to him, not a group, not that organization after he left employment or was part of his job performance, anything that makes it kind of unique to him. Because there's no question, he led an admirable life and he was very centered on social service issues. I worked in healthcare, and if we go off of those are the most helping people on the planet, then all of Manhattan will be named co-signed for people who worked in social services or healthcare. So what's unique to him?
I don't know if the other members of our group want to respond to that. I will say for me is that he really was, born in the community, and he really started with not just his job. In fact, one of the first involvements that we know of him is that he was working as a coach for basketball coach at True Light Lutheran Church, and that was not a paid position. That was not something that he was paid to do. This was something that just demonstrated his dedication to the community. And all through his life, he did these types of things. This was the kind of person that he was. When I was working with him in Chinatown, Chinese American Planning Council, he was the kind of person that he led us. His mentorship, his leadership by example was like, in the summertime, we had a van that used to deliver Meals on Wheels. And what would happen is that in the summertime, we'd have daycare and day camp, and the vans that were used to deliver meals, and the driver had to go with the kids on their trips. And so Harold, myself, two other directors, we did Meals on Wheels. We took our personal cars and we went and we delivered meals to seniors. I mean, the thing with Harold was that Harold was not one of the leaders who was way up in his ivory tower doing this. He was down in the trenches with the rest of us, and he was there with the seniors, delivering the meals, driving the car and doing everything. I think that what was unique to him was, besides that, he was giving of himself. So when I mentioned earlier that, he was a mentor to all of us, that was not part of his job. He was not there to direct my career, to direct Cal's career or Hong's career or whatever. He was there, but he did that. He saw in us the next generation of social workers and leaders in the community, and he encouraged us and gave us the opportunity to learn from him and then go on to provide leadership in the community and provide services there.
Thank you. That's for responding. And I want to get somebody else, not me, in other words. Eric,
Betty,
if you'd
just
like
really
to speak.
quick.
Yes.
Just really quick. We have a couple call-in users. I know that Larry is trying to sign on. *3, if you're on the phone, raises your hand. If you'd like to be recognized to speak, *3 on WebEx, and then once I give you the opportunity to unmute, *6 unmutes you. But *3 if you're Larry and you are looking to speak. Okay, sorry. Oh, go ahead, Eric.
Great. And I just want to remind people so no one gets insulted. With Robert's rules, committee members go first, and then other people from CB1, and then participants. So don't feel put off if somebody gets called before you. But Eric, please.
Oh, thank you. I just wanted to know, did did the Chinese American Planning Council and also the Charles B. Wang, do they all support this? Do they pardon if I missed it.
Yeah, no, they're definitely in there. We included in our application package, I believe it's like 28, 29 support letters, and we have letters from both Charles B. Wang and CPC.
Okay, thank you.
In fact, someone from Charles B. Wang was supposed to be here today, but was unable to make it. If we get to the community board meeting, someone from Charles B. Wang will be there.
Any other hands? I'm a little surprised because I know it usually comes up.
Hey, Betty, may I ask a question?
Please, yeah, I don't see
So,
hands.
like, sorry, I am on the phone this time, so
Oh, hi, sorry, Tammy.
that's okay. My question would be this to the applicant. If I lived at Thomas Street, or I lived at One Battery Place, or I lived on South Street, how would I know this person?
It's likely that you would not. If you look at the map, I think Lucian's putting it up now. The corner that we're talking about on Center and Walker is on the uppermost corner of CB1. I believe the line is on Canal Street and Baxter. And so this is the really the most northeast corner of the district. And so it's very possible. And I think it was Cal who mentioned earlier that it's very possible because he was really, how many generations? He was born in 1934. He retired in 1995. I retired in 2018. Cal, Larry, many of us have retired since. So many of the newer generation may not be aware of, know our names or so on, but would know of the accomplishment, would know of the, 125 Walker is still there. Charles B. Wang has now expanded onto Canal Street, and they have, I believe, 2 other locations in Queens, as well as another location, clerical office somewhere in Planning Board 1 as well. So they may not know his name, but in terms of the work that he started, continues. So
I appreciate the answer.
thank you.
Thank you very much. I wonder how this meets with our guidelines, but I leave that to the committee.
Yeah, I don't know if that isn't part of the guideline problems, because in fact, I did a search of the name. And as I said, all I came up with was 2 obituary, and it's because he is fairly recently deceased. So soon you won't even be able to look up and see who this person is at all. And unfortunately, he has a common name. So a lot of other names, a lot of other people with the same name come up who have accomplishments but have no ties to New York. But it would be very confusing for a tourist or someone who's just looking to get around and using the street signs. It's very confusing.
I guess
Betty.
one of my other questions, Betty, is what other opportunities have they looked at and considered or declined to honor this gentleman?
This is our first application. We have not considered any other opportunities. We select this location and this corner because it was the last position that he held before retiring.
It's Pat. I was going to say the same thing that Tammy. I know it seems harsh, but we have had many applicants in the past to come and want to co-name, and this has become a difficult topic in the community, and so that's why we developed guidelines. We also ask applicants, is there the possibilities, perchance, of putting a plaque on the facility that he helped to found, or some other way of honoring him other than co-naming a street?
I just got, can we call on Hong Xing Lee? He also wanted to respond.
Sure, no, if you'd like him to speak now, Lucian, if you can make sure.
Sure. Yeah, there is.
All right, thank you for calling on me. I wanted to respond to this because I want to point out that Harold may not be known or may not be a household name. His impact, and he provided a platform for a lot of services that are made possible. I believe he was the person who hired the first worker for the Golden Age Club, which became the City Hall Senior Center, now situated at 100 Gold Street, serving, I think, latest is 4,000 or 5,000 people a year, active membership. I know that because I was the director of City Hall Senior Center when we were at 253 Broadway. And both locations are, of course, in Community Board 1. And it was made possible because he had the vision of starting the Golden Age Club, that is the first Chinese American senior center in the East Coast, at least, I know of. And City Hall Senior Center not only served just the Chinese American senior population, we also work with, I say we because I was there for 6 years. We worked with the Community Board 1. At that time was under Judy Duffy as the manager, and Paul Goldstein, I think, was the district manager. We started a Community Board 1 senior network. We worked with Independence Plaza, Southbridge Senior Center, and we started working with Battery Park City. Gateway was having an increasing number of elderly in the area. So City Hall Senior Center was able to leverage and connect all these residents in Community Board 1. So Harold may not be known by individuals in the community board, but the result of his legacy is, I'm sure, has impacted a lot of people more than we know of.
Thank you. Vita, your committee member.
Sorry for my slowness to unmute. So this, he sounds like a great guy who was very caring and was a leader in his field and had a big heart. But in general, I find that co-naming is not a good way to honor somebody. Recently, I was heading to a medical clinic on Walker Street. I was heading up Center Street. I needed to then be looking for each street sign so I could see which street to turn on. And streets really are, we need the signs for wayfinding. We don't have big signs in New York. They're not at all four corners. It's actually quite hard sometimes to spot the street sign. And if it's going to have two signs on it, and especially if they're both going to be names, it gets very confusing. Like which street is it? Which is the name of the street and which is the co-name? And again, it's just a name. It doesn't give any information about this person. It doesn't show a picture. It doesn't give a little blurb or a little paragraph about his accomplishments. So I do support Pat and Tammy, but then in that I think there should be some brainstorming for a better way to honor this man, like a bench with a plaque on it that could have some information about him, even on the side of a planter or the side of a building where he worked or taught. I just, I think this co-naming of a street actually does the opposite of honoring someone. It sort of leads to a lot of frustration because then a person's trying to find their way and can't figure out what's the actual street name. And you don't want a negative connotation with the person, you want a positive connotation. So that's, especially with a street like this that already has a name. So thank you.
Yes, and I would do it and bring up, this is something that comes up over and over again. So This is not unique to this particular application at all. It is within our district. There are so many people and so many who have done some really remarkable things. And given of themselves that get nothing named for them. But the fact is, in 50 years, 100 years, 200 years from now, those streets would be nameable anyway, because everybody took it earlier. And again, those are problems with the law. That's not your fault. That's not our fault. But those are realities that have to be looked at when acting on these various applications. Does anyone else, because it's going to come down to, we have to do a resolution to let them move forward. And right now I'm hearing more no's than yeses. And how do people feel we should move forward?
Well, I still say, I know you're just coming before the committee for the first time, but you may not have thought of another way to honor this gentleman. And are you willing to go back and rethink your application? Instead of, applying to co-name, would you be willing to go back and think about another way, like a plaque or something that both, number one, is more in the location where he actually worked and helped people, and also something that would give more, it would be in context and it would give more information about who he was and what he did.
I'm speaking for the committee. I haven't spoken to everybody, but I would assume that, if we had to, that, of course we would do that. Our idea of doing this was something that was much more public, because he was someone who worked for the entire community. If you put a plaque in front of Chinatown Charles B. Wang Health Center, only the people who go to Charles B. Wang Health Center would see that. Whereas, as we indicated earlier, his impact in terms of the community was very large. He worked with all, the entire community. And so to see it just in front of the Charles B. Wang building, or in front of the Chinese American Planning Council, or Hamilton Madison House, or whatever, I think would not be a fair representation of the work that he did.
Although you've acknowledged that people don't recognize the name, so I don't know that it's greater that more people see a name that they have no idea what it means. It just leaves them frustration because they can't find the street name that they want.
And this is an issue that has come up before us. You're not, I think we're singling you out. It has come up time and time. I've been on the board 20 years. This is an issue, and that's why we came up with guidelines, because there are so many people that come to us with an application to co-name streets for people and organizations. And, we feel terrible, but the reality is that we don't know. And I think that it is more fitting to put it someplace where people, if they are going to the center or the school or someplace that he worked in, that it actually is associated with that person, as opposed to a street and no one except for you all know who he is.
Keep in mind, within a block of that, you've got the detention center. You have people just looking for their loved ones to go visit them or go to the court hearings. They're not looking to learn about the history. They're just finding their way.
May I?
Go ahead, Cal.
Oh, yes. Is that Eric?
No, that's Cal.
May I say something?
Yes, go ahead, Cal.
I appreciate some of your comments. I don't disagree with some of your concerns. But I think overall, your concern apply to any application now and tomorrow. And I think it would be more a matter for the committee board to decide as a passing matter whether you will entertain any more requests for street code naming, because whatever application that come forward will have the same issue. And I think it would be better if you issue some decisions that based on your concern that no application will be entertained, it will be clearer for everyone what to do, not to do, what to expect, and not to waste our time mutually, so to speak. I think the because the guideline did not spell out all your concerns, which are valid, but then people just follow the guidelines, and then now you're saying all these concerns, which were not spelled out in the guidelines, so it becomes frustrating for. I'm sure on your part and on our part too. So I think as a policy matter, I think it would be more straightforward that you issue some public statement saying, no, those guidelines say it's gonna be more specific. What would you entertain? What would you not entertain? And maybe even retroactively apply to all this street being codenamed before they should apply retroactively too. So because all the concern you have makes sense today and yesterday and tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you very much for that comment. In fact, I was already putting that whole discussion on next month's agenda.
Oh, great.
To really relook at not only our guidelines, but also to look at, do we do a resolution to ask them to please change this law? Because maybe it hits us harder than others, but I suspect it kind of, in Midtown, I doubt they like it either. Because there is no expiration, there is no anything. This is like for all time. That once it's voted and a sign goes up until, I guess, unless they just have it disappear and no one notices, it disappears. But Eric, is your hand up again? Do you want to speak or?
Pardon, no, I had already spoken. I didn't take my hand down, my mistake.
Okay, great. Then what I'm going to do is say, if nobody else has anything to say, we might as well move forward with, since they don't want to take time to consider, they want their application moved forward. If you go to the next slide. I'm sorry, not sharing, Michael, sorry.
Let me just find it again.
Thanks. Because the resolution is actually fairly straightforward. Either you support or you don't support the application. And again, as they've heard, most of the don't supports aren't directly related to the individual. So I understand the frustration, and I think it was just well verbalized what the problems were for everyone participating, the applicant as well as those of us who have to respond to it. But it really gets down to, are we going to support or not support co-naming the northeast corner of Center Street and Walker Street for Harold Liu? I get someone to move forward with a motion to,
Sure.
I support it.
well, not to support or not. We're moving towards a vote. That's the support.
Okay, well,
Betty, can I make a suggestion before you go down
Please,
this road?
Tammy, do.
I would like you to go through the guidelines for what, and review with the committee again what our guidelines say, the threshold to meet, because this is not about supporting or not supporting necessarily by the gentleman himself. It also
Right.
has to meet all the guidelines, not one, not two, but all.
Well, but the co-naming guidelines for individuals is merely that they're deceased, were a New York City resident, or were a native, so he's met that one. Have a minimum of 20 years of community involvement, he has met that one. But also the board may deny approval of an application at its sole discretion, which is some of the frustration we have with, and theirs as well, with, it's a little bit nebulous and saying, should there be more spelled out as to some limitations on individuals? Otherwise, the expectations are pretty low.
Right.
It's just where you were born and how many years passed.
And it was 20 years of community involvement and a great significance to New York City, right? And greater awareness within the society. You know, you have to look at everything that it sees there and what the intent was.
No, or be an individual. That's an or. "20 years of community involvement or be an individual whose death occurred under extraordinary circumstances. Or the death itself leads to a greater awareness within society." So this is like 3 options or alternatives for the second one, which is why I said it's pretty low standards or guidance for individuals. It's more rigorous for
And I was
historical
wondering,
reasons or others.
is that the most recent one?
Yes, it
It,
is.
it,
That's why I said this is going on the agenda next month, because it's obviously a problem.
there's something missing from the last time I think we reviewed it. That's my concern.
I mean, I thought it was longer also and more involved, but maybe
It
I'm
I
wrong.
took
was.
off what was mailed out by Lucian today.
So
I copied and
there's-
pasted.
yeah, we need to just double check that. I wonder if Lucian used the most recent copy. And the only reason why I say that is I do remember a large amount of conversation about great significance to New York City, and there was a thing about being well known.
Yeah, because of
I
the
don't
last
see
one.
that in any of this.
The
That's
last one was
true.
about the police officer, as far as I can recall. 9/11, right?
Well, does anyone want to move carrying this on to next month so we can investigate that?
That's what I would suggest we do it. There is not an urgency in the sense of, is there a deadline?
No, this is an ongoing law, so there's no
No, the application.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'll just add that this is from the website, the link that I sent. It's our co-naming guidelines that are on our applicants page. There's the additional, I think, verbiage that was added was an individual organization that has already been named on a public memorial within Community Board 1 will also be discouraged by the committee. You'll recall that that was one of the principal issues with the co-naming application for the young police officer who had died overseas in war, had already been honored with a plaque at the Transit District's 2 precinct, which was one of the principal reasons why the board moved to deny that application.
That's true.
And then that was revised to include that as well. So I just encourage everybody to go to the link on our website and take a look.
Does anyone disagree with postponing it for a month? For the vote, I mean the vote.
What exactly will we do in that month?
Well, that's kind of the question. It's looking at more the detail, as Tammy had brought up. This doesn't seem to cover all the real guidelines.
The published guideline PDF doesn't cover all the real guidelines. Is that what you're saying?
This is what I took from what Lucian sent out, so I'm going to guess it's what the applicant saw.
Yeah, I don't think that we should change it before, you know what I mean? It seems like it would be unfair to change the guidelines.
I think the
And
guidelines are there. I mean, I'm
Mimi.
looking at the original guidelines, Mimi. I hear what you're
Yeah.
saying, and I think there's a
We
part
should
that's
vote.
missing in here
In
that
the
says,
PDF?
no, it should be on the this is only part of the PDF.
No,
But it
I'm
says
looking
on
at the PDF.
It says only applications for street co-namings with significant and verifiable support. Right. So I think, one of the determines is what is significant. Right.
So we
that's
still need to figure out what's significant because aren't there a lot of signatures on this application in support of it?
Yes, and I believe 29 support letters.
That's a lot of community support. And it's
Well, it's not a lot.
quantified. Well, I mean, there's like 85%. There's like it's quantifiable in the. I can't actually find the. Do you have the PDF that includes the signed like there's, I don't know what's up with my email. I can't figure out where I have the
I
tally.
can post a link up for it in the chat.
Yeah, that would be great. I guess I looked at it on my other computer because I thought I had it up on a tab. But it on the last few pages, it indicated there was considerable community outreach about this, and then there was support, if I remember correctly. So it just doesn't seem like we should change the rules.
I
It
wasn't
seems like
talking about changing the rules. I was just talking
It's
about
not.
taking a look at the full application and making sure everybody looked at the full thing that I assume is fully posted that talks about, instead of the cut and the paste, right?
Mhm.
Because it's, yeah.
Number of businesses. So businesses have been approached about this, and there's a percentage of who signed. You know, there's a lot of information about the support in the community, and
What community?
I mean, are you looking at the?
Well, where the sign is actually located?
Yeah,
the
like
people,
just
the
look at
community
the.
of people
It's on.
who
It's the
use
block.
the street.
It's that block.
Oh, page 3 of their application, right?
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
it's pretty.
Yeah, no, I
clear.
understand. What I'm saying to you is
This, yeah, exactly
if you
this.
look at the objection that you were hearing from people for it being wayfinding, the people who live on the block obviously know the name of the block. The people who live on the block may not live there next year if they don't renew their leases.
Yeah, I mean, the
How do we
wayfinding
define
argument
community?
is like the wayfinding argument would mean that we need to petition the entire world to see if they can figure out where that block is. You know, like that doesn't make any sense to me. Like I don't think that is a great point, to be totally honest. Because you know, I also just use my phone and it knows where I'm located. So yeah, I think that the people that would be impacted are that community as opposed to like the whole
I'm
rest
one
of
of
the
those
world that might be
people.
trying to find the spot.
I'm one of those people that would be impacted because on that particular day when I left to get to the clinic I was going to Walker, I didn't take a phone with me. You know, I looked at a map before I left. I knew I was looking for that particular street. So I do think that we have some problems here because a lot of the terms used to describe the criteria are subjective. So we as a community board maybe need to look at these subjective terms and determine what is our threshold, because the wording is very simple, and that could include basically everybody who's lived a good life. So we have to determine what is our threshold within that subjective wording. And I still say that especially for somebody like this who is not someone you can Google, because there's just the one obituary up on 2 different websites, and that takes a huge amount of searching. So I think it would just be better if a different way to honor this person could be found. And I say that in general too. I think with most co-namings, most of the time there's probably a better way to do it, and maybe as a city we should move away from co-naming, but that's a different discussion.
And that's
I was going to say I think there are 2 different discussions here.
Right.
One of them is that they don't have to worry about, and that is, I'll put it on for next month, not this application, the whole issue of how do we move forward with it, which
And
is
maybe
our
we should take a
frustration
vote
as a
tonight.
community board. The other then sounds like rather than postponing this, we have to just vote it up or down. And I suspect there'll be a number of people frustrated because I know our history, and that is to generally not support because the negatives outweigh the positives. Which I understand has nothing to do with this individual. It's not, but we have to follow a law that was passed, and it gives people the option to be able to ask.
Yeah, I mean, this is a good and righteous man, but we have had many people who have come and asked for co-naming for good and righteous people, and we have denied it. And I think it's a conversation. I think we should vote tonight because it isn't fair for for us to hold our application, and then we need to revisit it both in our community board and and in the city.
Yeah, I mean, it does. I'd like to point out that it does look like their application fulfills the last page of our co-naming guideline PDF, or the second to the last, whatever it is, the one that has the co-naming request instructions with the minimum of 75% of total amount of potential signatures. It just, well, I guess block radius 153 units. It's just something to consider, and I think we should take a moment to do that.
Yeah, no, I agree, because Lucian wouldn't let it move forward unless it met the basic standards. You wouldn't even have seen it. It would have gone back to the applicant to say this is still missing. Which is why I say might as well move forward with voting, knowing that yes, no, is this co-naming something that you recommend moving forward or not? Knowing full well co-naming is, because we've had this happen many times before too. It is city council that actually makes the decision. It is merely, we're one of the steps in the process.
I have a question about the co-naming. I just want to confirm that the original street name will still be there. This will just be, or it's proposed to have an additional sign, a name underneath it. So if somebody's looking for Walker Street, it'll still be there, correct?
Yes, it has.
Yes.
Okay.
I wish I had a picture of it there. There are two street signs, one stacked right on top of the other one on the same pole.
Okay, thank you.
But if you don't know the city and you just come up to it, it can still be very confusing. Can I
I'm gonna
just
just
take a
take the
poll?
host controls really, or the presentation controls really quick,
Yeah, go for
Michael.
it. Sounds good.
Okay, could you throw them over to me? Oh, actually, I think I can give them to myself. I got it.
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Great, then could you go to the slide for
Well, I'm just
therefore
going
be it
to
resolved?
really quick bring this up just so.
Sure. There you go.
Thank you.
Yeah. So that's the sign on the bottom is the co-naming. It doesn't change the street name. It just adds an additional piece of signage. Okay, Michael, I'm bringing it back to you.
All right, sounds good.
And Michael, if anybody's trying to Google the address, the name of the celebrity person is not going to come up. It's still going to come up 110th Street, so that shouldn't be an issue.
All right,
Next
Betty,
slide.
do you want somebody to make a motion on this?
Yes, because if you go to the therefore be it resolved, so you know what it is you're voting on. We need someone to make a motion to move forward. So we can vote.
I'll make a motion.
Great, and let me just say, this wording will be supports when you're thinking of yes or no. If you vote yes, you're agreeing that you support it. If you vote no, that means no, you don't support the application. So forget my slash. That's only there to let you know that's which way to move. Is there a second? Then we can vote.
Well, Eric, could you make the full motion, please?
Sorry, I see
For the
Patrick's
record.
hand up. I don't know if you wanted to say something before we go into
Yeah,
the floor.
sorry, I'm just confused because I heard sort of indications earlier. I'm not making a motion, just to be clear, of a motion to table. Is that where this is headed, or we're voting on the resolution?
We're going to vote on the resolution.
Fair enough, got it. And I'll second it.
Well, Eric has yet to make the full
Okay.
motion.
Got it.
All right, Lucian, please instruct me. This would be my first one.
Well, you would say, I'd like to make a motion to support or not support this application based on how you're moved. You could make a motion to have a resolution to deny it, or you can make a motion to have a resolution to approve it.
Okay. I make a motion to approve of this motion.
Michael, do you have access to the slide?
Yes, is it not showing up?
Would you just get rid of the does not support?
Oh, of course. Yes, I can do that.
Slash onward.
Now the floor is open for seconds.
I will second that.
Okay.
There we got it.
Here we go.
Okay, so this is what it is you're voting on.
Oh boy. Sorry, Google logged me out. Wait, vote sheet. You stinker. Here we go. All right, I'm back. Kay,
K, no.
Fred Core,
Rancour, no.
Flynn.
Flynn, yes.
Coleman is not present. Froman,
Froman, yes.
is Joyce here? Let me just double check. Make
I
sure
haven't
she's
seen
not
her.
on. It's been some time since I looked at the attendee list. No. Okay. Canal,
And I'll abstain.
you,
You is yes.
and all.
Detta?
I spoke to myself, sorry. All no.
Okay, I believe the motion fails.
Okay, well, I thank you very much for everyone who spoke up for it. We definitely do encourage you to look at other ways to honor this man who led a very community service life. There's no question.
And keep in mind that the board did not pass a motion opposing it, so technically the board will not have a position on this until there is a resolution rejecting it. So just making that clear.
On behalf of our group, I would thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. And Lucian, so that means that city council wouldn't get anything from us before they,
Right. They wouldn't have I mean, they would know that a motion failed, but there's no official position of CB1 without a motion being voted out of committee, whether to support or to deny. So
because I
somebody
think
would
that's
have to make
important.
somebody would have to make a second motion to deny and then vote that through, or else you will have no position.
I am kind of for that, but I think that's important for Virginia Tong and the other applicants to know that as they move, I assume you're going to move forward to city council.
We'll discuss it as a group.
Right, so you should know what this means, and it just means there would be no position.
Thank you.
I actually think that that's a discussion that you need to have with the committee. If the committee feels that there should be no position or the committee feels they should take one.
I'd be okay with no position if we take this up next. If we're taking this up next month and we make clear if the committee believes, hey, we're not, we don't want to single, because I mean, my preference is I don't want to single out any individual. I'm very sympathetic to, the desire to honor Harold, and it sounds like he's, worth, honoring that legacy. It's more specific to, hey, I'm just not sure if co-naming is the right avenue for that. But I don't know. What are you thinking, Betty?
Actually, I'm with you on that too. Otherwise, we can revisit it next month because it would be briefly, but to put forward a resolution that says we do not support the application.
Betty, at this point, I would recommend you just open the floor for motions just to make sure that no one in the committee is moved to do anything. That way you can close the book without reservation.
I would be in
Rachel,
support
anyone
of that.
in support of
What Lucian just said, like remaining neutral as far as what we put on paper.
No, I was just saying that just listening for motions of any other motions on this topic before moving on. That's all. I'm not speaking in support or opposition of anything.
He was just saying, do you want to kind of clean that up if you believe we should be on the record? Where right now we're going to be kind of neutral and off the record because we're simply saying we don't promote it moving forward.
That way no one on the committee would feel that they didn't have an opportunity to make a motion.
May I also suggest that perhaps in this interim period that, I don't know if you want to make some changes to what is on, online. But, we followed the guidelines and we worked very hard on this. So I think that if you are planning to change those guidelines, please put that online so that folks will know and understand that, before they embark on this journey to submit an application.
That is a very appreciated comment, and I appreciate your frustration. Next month, it is my intent to put that on to clean not only that up, but do they want to move forward with looking at asking that the law be revisited, period.
Also, can we discuss this at exec, the whole guidelines for?
I leave that to Tammy unless you'd like to speak to say something now.
Because I think everybody on the on the board, not just this committee, should discuss the guidelines. I think that's where the guidelines came from before. And I do think that this committee, I'm not officially a member of this committee, although I come all the time, but I think that this committee should make a decision. I would personally, I would not want to say that we denied this application because I think.
Right, so leave it where it is, which is
That's
really
how-
what Michael said, and I agree with that too.
But Lucian said that it should be open so that people can express how they feel.
Correct, and no one took an opportunity to put forward, let's deny, so.
So I'm going to jump in here. And I don't mean
Yes,
to be,
Tammy. If would you
yeah.
like executive to take it over?
I do think we should do it in exec. We had it as a working group last time, which
Yes,
included
it
people
was.
from many committees. So I don't think that's a bad way to go. And I am uncomfortable leaving it willy-nilly based on my experience in the last, there's two topics here. There's this application for a very fine man, and then there's the overall topic. The overall topic should go to work as a working thing through executive. No issues with that. But
and would you join with that also looking into that working group, not only looking at the guidelines, but also how to ask about potentially asking to repeal a law?
Oh, absolutely. That's exactly where I want to go on that. Because,
Perfect.
I mean, let's be honest, in the age of technology, even throughout the city has opportunities to do robust information and engagement through their technological platforms that are in subway stops, that are up on the street level, that are in so many places that, it's like flyers, almost a thing of the past, almost, but not quite. At the same token and notion, I do think that as a board, if we do not opine, although the man is very worthy, clearly, and has done a lot of lovely things, we need to do something for a vote either way. So, and the reason why I say that is, if we have this motion does not move anywhere. It does not go to the full board, so the full board does not know. So it looks as if we have not had an opinion and we have not approved it nor denied it, right? We kind of have a feeling of how the board is on these things for co-naming. The gentleman from the NYPD was incredible. NYPD Transit was incredibly, wonderful human being as his parents and everyone who came and testified and spoke about, and was well revered within the ranks and everything else. And yet we chose and stood up to say no to that gentleman.
There was the person from the FDNY too that died in Afghanistan.
Right. So we have, although uncomfortable, said no to very worthy members who have served the public good. And I do think that even though we will look at the street co-namings and the legislative side of it, we do need to vote to bring something to full board for this gentleman. So they either have a yes or they have a no, and they are not left willy-nilly.
I don't know, they aren't better off not having a no.
But
because Lucian said it, they would still know, the city council would know that there was a resolution that got voted down in committee, correct?
Our positions are confirmed by the vote at a full board meeting. That is where our official positions come. Committee votes are advisory until they are confirmed by a full board, which is why I say this. And it's a very difficult position. It always is. It's never comfortable. But that is why I think I, as chair, would suggest that someone on the committee, as uncomfortable as it is, makes a motion either way. Because if this failed in committee, then that is a vote.
Well, it did fail in committee.
But it doesn't, that
Tammy means if the resolution were to be rejected by the committee.
Sure, I hear what Tammy's saying. So I'll make a motion to put forth a resolution with this wording, just saying does not support.
So use the alternative.
I'll second it.
I have a suggestion though. Before you do that, can you just add something like we just, in general,
with reluctance or something?
Yeah, I
something
agree.
like,
In the
or
whereas,
general,
maybe perhaps.
we don't, in general, we don't really support co-naming of streets.
Right.
Therefore, we have rejected it. We're not rejecting it based on the worthiness of the individual.
Yeah.
It has to do with our policy or our position.
Okay, well, hearing a second, I'll run through the names. Kay.
I support this.
Okay, so just to remind everyone, if you're in support, if you're in favor of the motion, that means that you are in favor of rejecting this application. Frank Orr.
Frank Kerr, yes.
Lynn.
So we're gonna have two resolutions. Is that what's happening?
No, the previous motion failed, did not carry. So this is a new motion to instead reject the application. So the official position of the board, if this motion were to pass out of committee and through the full board, would be that the community board does not support this co-naming application.
Okay. No.
Froman.
I want to make sure I'm doing. I was for your idea before, the neutrality. So if this is for opposing it on paper, then I'm a no.
Okay. Canal.
Still abstain.
You.
No.
And Detta.
All yes.
Okay. Let's see. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. This motion fails as well. Just reminding everyone that abstentions count towards a motion not carrying. So this
neutrality.
I think neutrality just wins. I mean,
that's it. Switzerland.
And you have.
It's something that's just
I'll
isn't going to
take
move
full
on to full
responsibility
board.
for being Switzerland on this one.
Yeah, I'm with you.
It is my fault. I get it.
Switzerland is undefeated.
Are you going to add something though? Are you going to present it to the full board as this, or are you going to add something that says, like in general, we don't support co-naming of streets?
Excuse me, didn't this fail?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this failed. So
There's nothing going to full board then.
It fails both ways unless the chair of the committee or I feel that it should come to executive for a vote, which I can do. It doesn't leave committee.
But then, with all due respect, Tammy, and I respect you highly, then the vote that, like, one vote that you were in favor for was okay, but now this vote that you weren't in favor for, then it's not okay. It's kind of like undemocratic. I mean,
so the only thing that we would end up doing is, as a response, it's sending a note from the chair that says there was no agreement in committee either way. Now, again, if anybody else, not just me, but if anybody looked at the agenda, heard the recording, and then said, you know what, I do think the board should vote on it, any board member reach back out to the office and make a suggestion that we do have a presentation on this and vote for it on a larger platform, or either an executive or the full board. So there are opportunities for if the sentiment changes. As of this time, what would end up happening is a letter would come from the chair saying that we could not come to a consensus, because that's to a majority vote either way, to support and deny.
Actually, I would prefer that.
Thank you.
Okay. I recommend that the committee moves on to the next. Yes, we have some people waiting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you to our guests. I'm going to start moving you back over to attendees. Please don't take it personally if you lose the ability to unmute. And I'll be moving over the presenters from the Performing Arts Center. So
Well,
just
actually,
bear with me for a moment.
Well, I don't know
Yes?
how much they have to present.
Well, I'll move them over so they can.
Oh,
unmute,
so they
I
can
will.
speak. Yes, sorry.
Yeah.
I thought you meant to say
Yeah,
present.
no problem. Okay. You're good to go.
Thank you. Remember, this was done last month, and this is really just to move forward with the resolution. So if you have any last minute questions, you can ask them. But if remember, this was about partially converting the bus zone on West Street to a for-hire vehicle and taxi pickup drop-off zone. You go to the next, because you can see I stole their pictures. They were really beautiful. To remind people where the Performing Arts Center is located compared to where the zone is, we were asking, where they are asking, and we are going to vote on we support or don't support. Go to the next one. To remind people, the signage change where the location is, which you just saw. The signage currently, and here's a picture of it with the scaffolding that I know, this is for you, Pat. But the current signage, which is for permitted bus parking for up to 3 hours between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Every day of the week. The signage change would be asking that we're supporting or not supporting would be for also going to taxi and for-hire vehicle drop-off pickup between 6 p.m. and midnight, Monday through Sunday. So in other words, it's the bus parking would still be there, would add the taxi for hire in the evening, which is when they would have patrons coming and going, and give them a place. So otherwise, it's really difficult to find many places to have a lot of vehicles moving for a large venue. Go to the next slide. Based on, first of all, let me ask the people from Perlman Center if they have anything they'd like to say. Jenna, is there anything you want to add?
We just wanted to say thank you again for welcoming us to the Transportation Committee meeting. We're so happy. My colleague Sawani, I don't see her on my screen, but she is also on the call. We wanted to thank you for taking the time to listening to us last month and speaking to us and helping us understand how we can work together. So we're here just to listen and to answer any potential questions members of the committee may have.
Thank you. And Pat, is your hand up to speak? Or an old one, then speak, please.
Good evening, Jenna. Good to see you again. So last month, first of all, I'm in support of this, but secondly, will private vehicles also, I guess this is a question. We don't have anyone from DOT. Can private vehicles use this spot to drop off? You know, so say I'm I'm dropping my sister off so she can go to a performance. They won't be ticketed, right?
Technically, no, they couldn't, but the reality is, what's the likelihood of policemen sitting there ready to ticket you the minute you pull up and drop off?
I'm just wondering if it needs to be made clear, does DOT need to say something about that, number one. Number two, last month I had asked how many cars could actually drop off at this spot at one time. So DOT did not get back to us with that answer.
No, they didn't, and it depends on if it's the whole block or a portion of the block.
Yeah, but I'm just curious to know how many cars can use this spot at one time.
A reasonable number can, it's a block.
How many cars is that?
If you look by Whole Foods and those, there are probably 10 vehicles parked
You think
along
that
that
many?
block.
That many?
It's not the same size. I disagree with that assessment, by the way.
Okay, so
I was
it's
thinking
a
more like
smaller
6 or
block, and again,
7.
people are pulling in and out, so they're not just in car length.
Also,
Does
didn't we
Street View show
well,
how many buses are pulled in there? I mean, we could estimate based on how many, because it is a bus layover.
and didn't we discuss them having though the PAC actually hiring some sort of traffic control so that people wouldn't sit there? I don't know, Jen. I thought we kind of discussed that last month. I'm not sure.
Well, you did raise the question. We aren't in a capacity right now to understand or fully commit to a budgetary allocation at this time. I think what we had discussed was the idea of DOT looking into working with NYPD for a city sort of municipal traffic agent, but I don't think we had actually discussed fully the PAC having the capacity to hire a staff person in that capacity.
I just want to go on record. I think it would be important because you don't want people sitting there. You really want them dropping off and moving along. So I'll shut up. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yes, no, it would be marked drop off, pickup.
I just eyeballed it. I want to say it's going to be seven vehicles, 8 if it's tightly packed. That's just me eyeballing it from the Street View.
Patrick, then Eric.
Thanks, Betty. Like Pat, I support this too. And to the point that Pat just raised, which is an important one, I think it would behoove the PAC to consider finding it in their budget, particularly on evenings where they're having large events, to consider having somebody out there to help direct traffic. Because to the point I was originally raising my hand about, I think this is a good idea because it's just codifying what's really happening there on a daily basis and a minute by minute basis anyway. Something needs to be done to help out with the what's effectively a de facto taxi line, but you are going to have other non-PAC related pickups and drop-offs. So if you're having a large event and you really want your patrons to use that pickup and drop-off spot and it not be used for other purposes, you really should get somebody out there and consider somebody out there for control. But anyway, I support it because I think it helps to manage what's going on there in the first place.
Yes, and Patrick, if you'd think for a minute while Eric speaks, if you can see what's up on the screen now, these are just some ideas, but you know, if you want to add another be it therefore resolved, that has to do with that.
I would support Patrick in adding another one that the
Yeah,
PAC find it in their
That
budget.
encourages the PAC to.
Right.
Yeah, I think we can wordsmith that, but effectively that encourages the PAC to consider at least event
For large
driven,
events.
yeah, large event
And we
driven
asked them relatively.
hires, temporary hires, something like that, event specific hires for security and traffic control specific to that space.
Michael, can you type?
Sorry, what's a big event space on Wall Street that we asked them to have traffic control?
Cipriani's, yeah.
Cipriani, we
And they
asked them
did
to
it.
do it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it works well for them.
Yeah, what was the text we were thinking of, Betty? This is for
If you just go to the next one, just go to the next line so that we know it's different. Patrick, you want to give some wording?
Sure. CB1 encourages the Performing Arts Center to utilize, PAC, to utilize event specific security and traffic control personnel to help utilize the drop-off zone for PAC events. I don't know. How's that sound?
Well, or help manage the drop-off zone.
Yeah.
Can we?
if you went okay with the wording, and then
I actually don't want to do strongly encourage. We made that a stipulation for Cipriani. I'm not understanding why we would just strongly encourage but not make it a stip.
I agree.
Yeah. So,
But I think the one thing to consider is that there's currently no liquor license being discussed.
Even
That
more
we,
so
a
to the
stipulation
point.
could
Okay.
be.
well, I don't think Cipriani's was tied to its liquor license. I think that
It
was,
wasn't tied with liquor, it was tied with traffic.
yeah, it
And
was tied to
keep
when we had the
straight.
financial district committee back in the day. It was
Right.
tied to resident complaints that were about to make it
Exactly.
explode.
which is a little different, and this is West Street.
Betty, do you see my hand up? Can I ask some questions?
Well, actually, Eric was going next, but do I see yours? No, I don't. So sorry, but you can go after Eric and then Detta.
Thank you, Betty. Yeah, I just want to follow up. I mean, I actually have two questions, but since this was brought up, I have concerns about PAC having event-specific security and traffic control. I mean, this is public property. Nothing against the PAC. I just don't want them to give preference to other people that may want to use it to drop off. I mean, a lot of people use Uber and other car services, but in general, I support this. I mean, this makes use of a public asset. This space. My other question is, can people actually park there after midnight to 6 a.m.? I mean, I don't think they should. It should be used for anybody to drop off throughout the whole night. It should be a no parking at any time from those hours. Yeah, sorry, Betty, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was going to turn that over to Jenna to say, were there specific hours?
Swanee, are you on? Swanee, you can join us.
Hi, Swanee Cho, I'm from the Performing Arts Center. I believe currently the curb after 7 p.m. when the bus layover zone ends is just unmetered parking. And our request was from 6 p.m. to midnight. So I believe that from midnight till 7 a.m. it would remain unmetered parking.
I think it'd be good to have that no parking from midnight to the morning. I mean, where people can continue. If somebody wants to stand to wait for somebody, because I don't expect a lot of people, but I don't think we want people to park there from midnight to the morning. We want it to be available for people to use.
Well, I can see why the PAC didn't make that request, because it's not their need. If you want, we can always approach the DOT separately and say, would they consider doing that? But I don't know that I want to put the burden on the Performing Arts Center people to ask for something that they know they don't need.
Okay.
But to answer your first part, if it's not really being used for private purposes while they are in operation, simply because if they had any personnel, event-specific security and traffic control, they wouldn't know where the person's going. I mean, if you just pull up to drop somebody off, they're not going to question them and say, do you have a ticket?
Okay.
So it's not as private as that concern. So yes, Tammy, then Detta.
Oh, no, my hands are up.
Well, I have 4 questions. What kind of outreach have they done to the buildings surrounding them as to the location? That's one. I'll wait. I'll go through 2 at a time. And secondly, can you explain why Barclay Street, which is in desperate need of some light and life and is a widely open, rarely used street in the evening with direct access, is not the first choice?
Swanee, do
Sure.
you want to answer the first part?
Yeah. We have not done sort of direct outreach to the public. We've been coordinating with the DOT, obviously, and the Port Authority. So this
What
is.
about the building that you're looking to take the parking that's in front of?
We did not reach out to them directly ourselves. And then with respect to your second question, we are looking for a location that is as close to the building as possible. That would facilitate, movement, walking, or access particularly by anyone who has mobility issues, who are
Isn't
maybe
Barclay Street
disabled.
therefore significantly closer? Because there's the entrance behind. I mean, Barclay Street is right there. There is 2 driveway entrances, one in front of 7 World Trade and the other one behind the post office. So there's a significant amount of, it's actually a full block closer than the West Street location.
We can speak with DOT. We're following their lead, and they had suggested this location on West Street. I am not familiar with the regulations currently on Barclay Street, but we can take a look at that
I think what they're probably going to say is that the likelihood of creating congestion if somebody just drops off on West Street and then the vehicle moves on is a lot.
Betty, I'd love to hear the DOT instead of our assumption of what they will say, because from a resident who lives at the other end of the World Trade Center campus, the cars do back up all the way down West Street when that area is widely used. So I have concerns that the 7 cars of taxi line that is supposed to end at Vesey Street will extend all the way up to the World Trade Center campus site, and there is no enforcement, or rarely enforcement, of people who just pull up and drop off at the side of the World Trade Center campus or at the side of One World Trade. So that's why I was asking those questions, and I'd like DOT to be able to answer those directly. And where those, instead of us, if the PAC can't answer and there's no traffic study that looks at the other options, then I'd want DOT to come back and explain. Sorry. The 2 other questions I was going to ask you is, what parameters have you set out, and how does bus parking relate? I assume that with all performances, there will be tour groups and everything else, just like buses that get dropped off at both Lincoln Center, Madison Square Garden, and other high-profile venues throughout the city. What accommodations have you coordinated for bus parking directly related with anyone coming to the PAC?
Thank you, Tammy. We aren't currently anticipating asking for charter bus signage services from the Department of Transportation.
So the current place that they drop off is the West Street location that we're looking at to turn to a taxi stand. And so there will be no more bus drop-off location after 6 p.m. because you're taking that last hour back.
I believe.
Can I say something?
I believe there's bus parking on Barclay Street.
Mm-hmm. There is. It also ends at 7. It's the same hours as the others. It ends at 7 p.m. But there is bus parking that would then become vacant on Barclay Street. We investigate. I had asked these questions by email during the past week.
I appreciate that, Betty, but it always has to come out to a public forum as to understanding why a street that is a little bit closer, clearly less utilized in the evenings for traffic, could not be utilized. There's a huge public benefit to being able to enliven that street, which is downright scary and dark, quite frankly, if there is no traffic. So I could see having a taxi line as actually an enhancement to the public realm on Barclay.
Ooh. I don't know if people who live there would agree, but.
Are you talking about Barclay and West Broadway? Tammy?
No, Barclay by Greenwich. That's Greenwich
Oh,
Street down there.
okay. Yeah, I was sorry. I was just looking at the street view.
Yep. So it's just, Target's a block up. It's the back. All of the, even when BMCC is full and enlivened, and Fitterman Hall on Park Place is enlivened and things like that, it's all up that direction. This could be a huge boon to also get traffic from people who come down Broadway to take, a turn on Barclay Street and be able to drop off immediately behind the pack, which seems like a natural traffic pattern and takes people off of West Street.
Well, no, it takes them to West Street because Barclay is one way
Right. But
heading
I'm
west.
looking at taking poor behaving for hire vehicles or taxis, which it will end up being for both, into a place that could really enhance, with lighting and traffic. Desolate over there otherwise. So I'd like to see a traffic study that included Barclay or a response from DOT before we approve this. And understand, my fourth question is understand the timeline for when this has to be voted on and when the decisions are being made and when the opening date for the packet is, that this all needs to be coordinated by.
Thank you, Tammy. I'm writing down all of your questions and concerns right now. I know that Jen from DOT is on leave. So some of these DOT questions, she isn't here to answer, and I can't speak on behalf of the Department of Transportation. But yes, I'm writing down all of your concerns as you speak.
I appreciate that. There are, things that we need to discuss in the public realm, and we want you to be as successful as humanly possible and be able to provide, robust benefit to everyone who lives surrounding. I do know that spot that you're talking about and see how that could potentially work, but I'd also like to see why the other ones were not chosen and to understand that. So I appreciate that. Thank you. Oh, and can you give an answer to the timeline for when you need all of this, when these decisions are required?
So our opening day is for the beginning of 2023. I can't speak to the internal approval schedule of DOT in terms of how they process and approve or put signs. I'm not familiar with how they handle signage calendaring internally.
I don't either. All I can tell you is, if you can back me up on this, Jenna, last month when this came up and I asked if we could do the vote this month, and at that time, Jennifer Leung said, yes, we could wait that little bit longer and they would still have time. So it sounds like it's somewhat time sensitive, but she didn't elaborate.
Mm-hmm.
That I think is the most critical thing to understand, because I have concerns about voting on something that we don't have all the answers on yet to the questions.
Okay, so you want this all, let's go on to Patrick and then Detta.
I was just thinking about Tammy's points, and which I think is a good idea in considering Barclay Street. And I would specifically ask that the applicant or DOT focus on the north side of that street, specifically the 240 Greenwich building, even if it were to extend around onto Greenwich Street somehow right in front of that building. And I say that because I believe, and I can't remember if this is the address, 101 Barclay, the residential entrance to that portion of that building, the old Verizon building, is on Barclay Street. So if you put the taxi stand right in front of the residential entrance, I think we're defeating the purpose. But getting it off of West Street is probably an even better idea, and a good one anyway, at least something to look into. So anyway, we know 240 Greenwich, including where it wraps around on to Barclay Street, is a commercial building, bank building. So that might be a little bit more palatable for something like this. Anyway, just my thought.
Thanks. And Detta?
Yeah, I am supportive of this. Especially if this was what was recommended to them by the DOT. And this is just 7 car lengths. It's not exactly a taxi stand. It's going to be a pickup drop-off zone. So I would say this is a good first step, and then some of the other streets being mentioned would be good in addition, because I would assume there's always a need for pickup drop-off zones. So the more we create in our community, the better. And just in terms of having a traffic person out there that the Performing Arts Center would pay for, I do think that should remain as a recommendation, not as a demand. I mean, ideally, that would be a service that through our taxes is done by the police. But if it's not, I just think it should still be a recommendation, not a demand. Thank you.
Thanks. Well, I guess unless Tammy, you want to speak again, I think all those hands are just up still.
No, I am.
Please speak
I am
then.
fine.
Oh, okay. Then it sounds like when the chair wants to hear more before moving forward with the vote, that's, hate to postpone you yet another month, but sounds like we need to call in DOT before this can move forward. So
I understand.
thank you for your understanding, and see what we can get done during this month, and see you next month.
When's the
We
next?
really, we do want you to be successful, and we do want to be able to help you make this happen because we understand the need. Trust us. And I just want to make sure that we have dotted our I's and crossed our T's and taken into consideration as much of the neighborhood as we can around you to make sure that the neighborhood and your needs are all met. So thank you.
Thank you, Tammy.
Tammy, are you also then suggesting that you really think they should look at bus parking as well as drop off for taxis? And
Amen, I am, because it's one of those things that we struggle with the World Trade Center campus about where the buses can and cannot go and how they integrate into the site, and they are required and needed. So it would be a truly terrible thing if we didn't consider all modes of transportation. We all hope that everybody comes by bike and subway, but we know that that's, you know, this will be a performing arts center that will have large groups of people that come. So we need to figure out where the buses are going to go, just as much as the cabs and the for-hire vehicle. It should be a complete package.
thanks. I wanted to make sure you clarified that one when Lucian dealing with the DOT, so what we're asking them for, but also so the people at the PAC know what they're going to be asked when looking at the whole package, so it doesn't get postponed yet again. You know where we're going. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Betty. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Tammy, Pat, Detta, everyone. Patrick, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
We look forward to seeing you again next month.
And the next item then is the revocable consent request to add an accessible ramp at the Louis J. Leftwich State Office Building. That's where it gets confusing. The address is 80 Center Street, but what they're looking at is the 159 Worth Street entrance.
Betty, really quick, I just want to ask if whoever's on the phone, if they're from DCAS, just hit *3 to let me know. That'll raise your hand. Or if you're from the city, I did request for someone to come and walk us through this application, but I didn't hear back. So it doesn't appear that our attendee is from the city. So with that, Betty, I give it back to you.
Well, it sounds like there's nobody here to do the presentation because I didn't even take the photos and things from their packet, which I don't expect anyone to have remembered all of it. Unless there are people who want to move forward and say, I'm all ready to make a resolution on this.
I don't see how anybody could have any opposition to this, so I'm ready to make a vote.
Anyone opposed moving forward? I don't want to assume.
I think they should be here to explain. I mean, did they mention this at the last at the last meeting? Because I don't recall this one.
No, this is the first time.
Yeah.
But to add an accessible ramp, what explanation? I don't mean to be condescending, but what explanation could be needed other than it's making it accessible for handicapped individuals?
You're right. I don't know what it could be.
And
but
I mean zero. I'm not trying to come off wrong, but
yeah.
you know, it seems like something that's like you know, if you're for clean air, you're for accessibility. You know, for people in Betty's situation. To be perfectly frank.
That's fine.
Okay.
In fact, what I was going to say, because I looked at this, the sidewalk is 10 feet wide. The width of the ramp is about 3 feet if you include the railings as well. So it's everything, not just the part that's usable. But if you go down the block a little bit, for those who might say, well, that doesn't leave enough for pedestrians, they still need a ramp. But in fact,
Right.
I have a picture on Google with the trash out, and the trash takes up even more space than that. So the pedestrians are still moving in a space that'll be left on the sidewalk when the ramp is in place. And to let you know, at 80 Center Street, because this is where I would have had photos, 80 Center Street opening entry, which is the main one that goes to an Art Deco lobby, has 10 stairs to get to it. The one at 159 Worth Street, was 3 or 4 stairs, so significantly less. I can see why they chose to use that one, although it's not their main entry, as the one to make accessible. And in fact, what I wanted to add was one other thing to it was, if you look at it on Google, because Mimi probably is right now, the signage at 80 Center Street. So if I arrive there, it's way up next to the front door. But for people like me who are down on the sidewalk level, I have to look up 10 stairs and then around the corner over where the landing is, and then across the stair, and there's no way I can read that sign. It obviously tells you where to go to get into the building. So the other way is to simply mark 80 Center Street in a way that could be read for where the accessible entrance is. Yeah, so you can see where the space that would be taken up and what's left. And in fact, it's a little over 7 feet that's left if you look at the architect's drawings. Where the ramp is. Yes, and the grade is very sloping, and it would be an easy incline to do.
Let me know if you need me to scrub through that.
Yeah, no, that's
to
if
any
you,
other parts.
do you have do you have Google to look at 80 Center Street from the sidewalk level, which is what their picture is?
Give me a second.
I just put the link in the chat because I was right there. There's a scaffolding. But yeah, if you want to click on that link in the chat, Lucian.
Yeah, and I experienced this because my son got married at the marriage portion of it, because there are 4 entries to this building, but the one for the circuit, for the courts, are 2 separate ones from the ones that go to this application, the 80 Center Street portion. of the building. And if you go in the one that you can use, well, I was looking for 80 Center Street. They usually have a better picture than that. Anyway, take my word for it. There's a little tiny plaque, not very big, but I know because, like I said, I went there when my son got married. And again, you have to use a different entryway. Yeah, look for where the sign, here's the sign that's down lower.
That's the best resolution I can get of it.
Okay, that's what I wanted to ask them, because if you look at the other pictures, I could not find a photo that showed this at this location. And I was going to ask them to please verify that there is a sign down as low as that is.
I would definitely include that in the reso, and I'll point that out to DOT if and when
Well,
that's
DCAS.
passed. Well, DOT has to approve the.
Oh, okay. Yes, because the problem was, I just plain couldn't even see the sign, and I thought, this isn't going to help me. I had to go send somebody to look at it, and that matched the photo. If you Google 80 Center Street on Google Maps, it doesn't show anything down here like this does.
So the ramp will be over those the grading where that man is.
No, it's not. This is the 10
Oh.
stairs. It would be a
Okay.
different entrance to the same building.
Okay.
And it's pictures that you have to go around the corner. But there are only 3 or 4 stairs at I think it's at 159 Worth Street. Yeah, there you go. That would be where the ramp is, in front of that cement portion to the right of the stairs. And just as here, when you just were loosened, you can see there's a sign up by the stairs that says about the accessibility. That's exactly what it looked like for this Center Street entrance. And to see it looking up 10 stairs, really hard to read. And so for those of us in wheelchairs and others that need to look at it, why don't they put it somewhere where we can see it? They put it where the people who can walk up there can see it. Really? Anyway.
Would we want to do a resolution for the signage in addition to, as a separate resolution? Because that's a really good point. The signage isn't accessible.
That's what Lucian was addressing and saying no, because DOT, when they're authorizing this, it should be part and parcel of, we'll give you the right of way, but you better do this too. So
Yeah, I recommend putting it all together. That way we can communicate that to DOT that, the committee has reviewed this and the board has approved the committee's recommendation to say that they're okay with this, with DOT granting revocable consent, provided that these certain things happen.
And one of those things would be moving the signs a little lower. Is that correct?
That's right.
Got it. Thanks.
Does anyone want me to scroll or show any more imagery before you move on to the next?
Can we see it in 2021? Do they have a 2021 version? You've got it in.
Yeah.
We're in the past.
We're in the past.
I just want to see if anything's like what's different. Yeah. Well, I mean, that was over by
actually,
the
this side may look to be clean, actually. So
there's
good.
like it's a little bit different. Interestingly, is that asphalt?
More grass growing in the stairs.
Wow.
2020, nature
takes back the city.
Took it back, et cetera, et
Nature
cetera.
and wildlife.
Yeah,
Cool.
which is funny because it, the building is marked as Department of Health and Hospitals and Sanitation. So.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that need to be updated with this building. But are people ready to look at the resolution? And Lucian, I liked your wording. So if Michael go back to the slide and we could take advantage of typing it appropriately so that one, people know what they're voting on, and two, I have the word verbiage to carry on that I'll correct. I'll make sure it appears in the resolution. So Lucian, you're saying that actually to combine these two, that make it as support. Michael, if you don't mind changing it to supports, because it has to be one or the other that we've for voting purposes.
I would just modify the second and just say that current deficiencies in signage can be rectified with this project and must be included for the community board to fully support this proposal, something to that effect, just based on the way you have it put out together.
What about rather than, so the decast must, rather than saying is urgently requested to, this is not really going so much to them, must.
And I think you just say, improve the placement of signage, because in the whereases, we can be much more specific as to what the current deficiencies are in setting up for these therefore statements.
Yeah, because I feel like they would need a very specific lower the signage or what have you, instead of being like, yeah, they can see it, it's fine. Yeah, cool.
Okay, so you just, and this, people don't have to worry about a whole lot. Getting rid of in a location that can be and rely on the whereas is what you're suggesting, Lucian.
Yeah.
I already have a whereas that says that.
Right. We can just pump that up. Yeah, and then just make sure that the support of the board is predicated on this happening.
So this wording works for you for
The result must improve the time. Yeah, and I would underscore that, to be supported by the board, just to make it extra clear that that's something, and we can tighten that up. But I think that's the idea that really needs to be conveyed here is that this is not simply like, wouldn't it be nice, but if you're going to do a capital improvement, then you must make sure the signage is correct.
Why not then just have just the first one, and after 80 Center Street say if improve placement of signage, so kind of put the two together.
Yeah, and I think just generally, if everyone's agreed that the signage should be an important part and they're okay with us workshopping this afterwards, I think you could do a lot of that. We can do a lot of that in post. But.
Okay, because then it can be, yes, we support if they improve the placement of the signage.
Yeah, and then what I'll do is I'll pick a lot of that out, and then there's a section for that in the materials that I submit to DOT after the full board vote. So I'll send the resolution, and then the parts that like I have to really highlight for them as being kind of the crux of the support or the opposition. This being the support, I'll pick that out and put that in there and say, please see line blah 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 for more in-depth background.
Great, thanks. Yeah, because I can wordsmith it because we have too many redundancies of the address. They aren't necessary if they're put together.
Yeah, I think you can wordsmith it after. I think if you just have a motion saying that if you were to support it in a motion, it could be simple as, we support this application for revocable consent, provided that the signage is improved, per the discussion in committee, and then we can make sure that the resolution reflects that.
Right, any comments before vote? Any motion to move toward a vote?
Yeah, I'd make a motion for a vote.
I'll second it.
Okie dokie. Let's see. Here we go. Kay,
Okay, yes.
Francoeur,
Concur, yes.
Flynn,
Yes.
Froman,
Froman, yes.
Canel,
Canel, yes.
you,
yes.
and Detta all.
All yes.
Okay. Well, this motion carries.
Yay, this was a one and done too. Now we get to revisit yet another one that hopefully we can close tonight. And this one really was, I withdrew it, so we have no burden of doing anything other than, I agree with Lucian, we really should move forward and vote one way or the other before taking it back to full board. Go to the next one, because the emphasis really was on sidewalk. This is an aside here, to let you know that I did find one of the signs, this bottom of these three signs, and it turns out these are Port Authority signs. This is on VC Street, and it's, you can see the no bicycle riding on the sidewalk sign, the bottom. They kind of laughed at DOT saying, oh, look, Port Authority has one. Anyway, next. That's kind of where we're going with some of this. This is what went forward last month, the exact wording. So, do not place city on the sidewalks without compelling justification. The position of the docks by the bike lanes with the bike position toward the lane, which there was no pushback on, and to place international signage at all stations to inform and emphasize that bike riding is not permitted on sidewalks. Again, there was no real pushback. If you go to the next slide, I'll go through 2 points that were brought up that it was way too late to wordsmith at full board. So here we are again with them. First comment was that we not place city bike stations on sidewalks district without compelling evidence. This was to change the word compelling to overwhelming. And since I am not a fan of overwhelming, because it means it's something you absolutely can't meet, this is like over the top is what overwhelming means. Then another alternative, if people don't like compelling, would be convincing. The whole point here, which is why the words, I still like compelling, it's just to let DOT know that we don't just want information, explanation of why the sidewalk, but that it better be a pretty convincing one.
I personally don't have a strong opinion about the wordage or what word we use, so I'm fine with whatever you use / the majority of the committee, if anyone feels strongly about it.
I think compelling and convincing are pretty much the same thing. I don't like overwhelming. I hate when I'm overwhelmed. But so I feel what do we usually use? We have to. What's our
There's no
common?
usual to it. I think the question is if overwhelming, because I didn't want to just reject it out of hand, but it doesn't make sense because it's you can't meet it. So I didn't want to set up something that challenged the DOT saying we don't want them there unless you do this, and then make the unless impossible. Then what's the point?
Yeah,
I think
if we're
compelling or
just trying to
convincing.
respond to feedback we got at full board, I'm okay just changing it to convincing. I don't think it's, in my opinion, it's not a huge or any change really from compelling to convincing, but I'm fine with it.
Gerald?
Yeah, I actually did some further research into this. And so before we get too far, may I share my screen for first off, Happy New Year to everybody.
Same to you.
Secondly, thanks, Betty. May I share my screen to show a short 50-second video?
I don't have the controls, so I'm doing
Okay.
nothing.
All right, you should have the power to share now, Gerald.
Okay, and then I've written a short blurb to go with this, so I'll keep it all short. I wanted to make sure I had everything thought out ahead of time, but let me see what I can do here for starting my video. Share my screen. There we go. Okay, are you able to see that? Nope.
Now, yes.
There we go.
It
Okay.
hasn't started
So,
yet, but I can see it.
all right. I have a very poor cell phone, and at about 22, it's going to start slowly here, but this is the City Bike docking station to the left on Murray Street at the corner of Greenwich. I started to take this when somebody was here. You can see this person getting off or taking the bike out of the dock and mounting the bike. And there is a slight slope here. Riding down Greenwich Street into traffic. And as if I orchestrated this, which I did not, we have another bike coming in to dock their bike across the curb, the ADA curb. The street here, or excuse me, the sidewalk is 15 feet wide. The bikes take up approximately 5 feet of the sidewalk. This was actually a very light day of pedestrian traffic, and now I have to figure out how to unshare my screen.
Well, I don't
here.
think there's any disagreement that we want them off the sidewalks.
Well, the
general.
the issue that I came into then is that DOT's New York City street design guidelines does have city bike share stations. The guideline is that they should be 5 feet from the curb for starters. So it's in DOT guidelines that that these are permitted to be placed on the sidewalks.
Correct.
So the last thing I wanted to share was, okay, so this was taken at 8:30 a.m. on a day that this corner had unusually light pedestrian traffic. Now imagine the sidewalk packed with pedestrians as it usually is, and 32 motorized bicycles coming and going across pedestrian traffic. Motorized bikes, you ask? Yes. Meet
Yes,
the
but
City
nobody's
Bike e-bike.
there was no disagreement about that. We want people off the sidewalk. And the
Okay.
comment was not to place city bike stations on sidewalks in our district without compelling justification. And the reason for not just leaving it not ever on sidewalks is that there are places like next to Stuyvesant High School, which is technically a sidewalk, but everybody wants a station there because there's plenty of room. It's a very atypical sidewalk, and it's right next to a major bike greenway.
Correct, right. So I just wanted to address that not everything is Stuyvesant. That's kind of the exception to the rule, if you will, because it's such a large plaza and not really a sidewalk. It's in fact, I think it's called the Esplanade in particular.
No, but DOT considered it a sidewalk, and that's why that came up. So
Fair enough.
to make an absolute, this was just to get around making an absolute and saying without compelling justification. And in a case like around Stuyvesant, it would be pretty compelling to say, well, look at these reasons why this location, even though it's sort of a sidewalk.
I think that I want to say that everybody loves City Bike as an amenity to the city, and myself included. I just think that as we're pushing towards more bicycles in particular, that this is something that DOT as from a planning standpoint needs to look at again. We all know that any city plan is a living organization, living organism. It's not static, and things change. So we're adding more bicycles, and this really is a key issue as we increase bicycles. So thank you for that, and with that, I'll step off.
Yes, and like I said, some of these, you'll see, well, I could do it. Some of the trouble stations could be taken on individually versus these are more sweeping policies, which makes it a little different.
I'd like to see City Bike kind of step up and take do this from a safety standpoint. But again, it may have to come from DOT.
Okay, well, the other comment that we got, and so what I'm hearing from people is on this first one, just change the word from compelling to convincing. Is that what others heard? Thank you for shaking your head, Mimi, because I know I'm not crazy.
I think
Well,
compelling
that's
is
one
very
change that
effective.
could be made. The other is that we heard at the full board was to add, not place city bike stations in privately owned public spaces or POPs. And the issue here, and I'll follow up with something I got from Alice just before the meeting, but this is already not allowed. It was a mayoral order that temporarily allowed a now expired use of POPs for city bike. But if you go to the next slide, part of the issue that brings it up is there have been city bikes in POPs. This is 140 Broadway. 2, we have an awful lot of POPs down in our district. If you look at the map, so I can see why people consider it an issue. Next one, but also why placement may be appropriate or seem okay in some cases. So what are the issues? One would be make no change because the mayor allowed placement in POPs. It was a temporary thing and that order has expired. And then do separate resolutions to request relocation for those stations that may or may not have been moved out. The alternative would be to add to not place city bike station in a POPs without compelling justification. So mirror the sidewalk argument and community support. So that'd be adding a therefore be it resolved statement. But let me read to you what Alice, because she could not attend tonight, has asked to be considered. And that is city bikes should not be located in any lower Manhattan, privately owned public space, or any public space used for passive or active recreation. So I want you to consider all 3 of those alternatives for discussion. Mimi and then Patrick.
Well, I was going to make a comment about Gerald's video because I'm looking at Greenwich and Murray, over by, I guess it's not Murray, Greenwich. I'm looking at Target, and there's so much space on Murray Street. It's just kind of ridiculous that they ever put the city bike station on the sidewalk.
You're right. I mean, it's just outside
that was
BMCC as well.
Yeah, it's interesting because it would be nice. Well, I guess my curiosity to know why they put it there in the first place. So that's curious to me because there must be some sort of reason, I guess. So yeah, and the issue with the POPs is because they take up too much space. I'm not actually following the issue with putting city bike stations in POPs, other than they're kind of on the sidewalk and over the curb.
I think some of that is some people feel more protective. Let me tell you one of my concerns about Alice's comments, which is just don't place them, period, which is why I made an alternative that's a little bit softer, saying that don't do it without compelling justification. One, it's not really allowed. So I don't want to be terribly insulting to the DOT saying, of course you break the law all the time if you do this. I also recommend, well, Tammy's here, could speak for herself. No, but anyway, Tammy likes to go on the record, and she had written to me and said that she would, because things can change anytime, she would still prefer to have a position on POPs taken in this issue, despite that.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah, I just think they should be on the street. So
I think the reason to be softened a little bit is if people remember the Bank of New York, Mellon, and in fact, I know that Patrick will remember this best because it came up in his committee. They were going to do the Alexander Hamilton space, and it was like a plaza over along West Street. There's a very popular dock there, and it was requested by Tammy and others that if it was removed for the construction of this plaza like space, that it be promised that it be replaced immediately when it was done. Are we giving a mixed message here? And it is a good placement, and there is space for it. It is across from the ball fields at Battery Park City, which is why it's one of the popular, as well as all the businesses and everything else in that area. It's a heavily used bike station.
I see. So, yeah, so we would probably want to have convincing here as well, since apparently we don't like compelling.
Your point is well taken. Change that to convincing. And Michael, if you can change compelling to convincing.
You got it.
So this would be adding a therefore be it resolved statement, the wording being as written here. It mirrors the sidewalk statement. Patrick.
Yeah, that was actually my point about the standard, to be a little lawyer nerd for a moment. That clear and convincing is an actual legal standard. Something, so preponderance of the evidence is something like 50-50. Clear and convincing is something a little bit more. I think overwhelming is something more akin to, reasonable doubt, which is just so high and unreachable. But if you used convincing versus compelling, there's an actual sort of legal mind that you could tie to that. So I'd be in favor of convincing for that specific reason. That's all.
Well, actually, if you look up the words in the dictionary too, compelling comes with it being made, there's a certain emotional impact that it's just it hits you at that level versus just being rational.
Yeah, there's a lot of subjectivity in something like that. That's why clear and convincing, I think, is used.
So I think I'm glad to hear the convincing is a good change to make to deal with that. And this, hopefully people agree, is one way to deal with the other thing that came up at full board, where that's addressing the pops in some way and going on the record in a way. Any other comments before we vote?
Yeah, I would say I agree. I think this addresses them both. To Patrick's point, does it make sense for us to just use the legal I don't know, wordage and call it clear and convincing?
I don't know. I mean,
it probably doesn't matter. I don't mean to make us use this any more than we need to. Sorry, I'll withdraw that.
Not necessarily then tie us to we're judging an illegal standard, but I thought I'd throw that in there that there's something
don't worry about it.
But
forget I said anything. I'm in favor of it.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm happy to make a motion unless anyone has.
Great. In fact, if you'd like to just paste, I'm sorry, copy it, and then we can go back to the beginning one, which is the verbiage.
Yeah.
That went
So we got
before this. Go back to
this guy.
Slides. This is what was passed last time.
Without convincing facts. Something like that.
Correct. So this is what you'd be voting on. I'll flip around the order a little bit of the statements.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
But everybody comfortable? Have any questions about what they're voting on? I think it's good to show that the committee did look at it again and make a separate vote before bringing it back after withdrawing. So thank you for that.
For sure. Yeah, I'll make a motion for us to vote on this.
Second.
Yes, not? Does someone want to make a motion to go to vote?
Oh, sorry. I think you faded out for a sec, Betty. I'll make a motion.
I second that motion.
Great, Lucian, it's turned over to you.
Alrighty, here we go. Okay.
Okay, yes.
Francoeur.
Francoeur, yes.
Sorry, I always say Francoeur. Francoeur. Flynn.
Flynn, yes.
Roman.
Roman, yes.
Canal.
Canal, yes.
You,
yes.
All right, Data all.
All, yes.
Okay, this motion passes unanimously.
Do you mind if I say something really quickly? I believe I owe Detta an apology about the co-naming, because when we were looking around the building at Center and Worth, or whatever that was, the name in Google changed to Avenue of the Strongest or something like that. I was like, what street am I even on in Google Maps? So I would like to apologize. I got confused myself.
Oh, thank you. Apology accepted. Mimi, I will say I live in a neighborhood where they've changed all the street names. It is so confusing. I've lived there for years and I still don't know where I am.
I had that problem. I remember now when I was in, I was walking in Chinatown. I was walking from my neighborhood into Chinatown, and I couldn't quite figure out what street I was on, but I don't know. I did use my phone to figure that one out. I hear you on that.
Did we lose Betty? Or Betty, I see it that you're on, but I don't know if she might be having internet.
But she's frozen for sure.
Yeah. Now I see the
There's
little
a triangle. I don't know what that
bandwidth
means.
thing on. Yeah.
Oh, triangle just went away. Nope, there she is.
Hey, I see her again.
Okay, great. Yeah, because I went back to the live website and it said no internet, so it appeared to be cut off at that level. One of the next update, because these are really brief and just kind of fun. One for the new DOT commissioner. Yes, he has been confirmed. So we do know this is Dennis Rodriguez. And here he is, the old, pre-bike lane.
What time is that? That's pretty empty.
I know. Must have been a cold day.
She's frozen again, Betty.
Oh no, we lost Betty.
They must have hustled everybody out of the way to take the shot.
Yeah. Photo op.
Oh, there's Eric Adams, yeah.
Yeah. I guess we'll kind of just we can walk through some of the updates while Betty tries to get. Let's see. Yeah, it looks like Eric Adams city bike to work one day this week. So
Yeah, that was on
Darn bear.
one. He rode the subway one day and the bike one day. Trying to make nice with us residents.
Yeah, take it.
Burn.
Oh yeah, downtown connection buses are back in service, so that's good. That's great news. Let's see. What is this? Oh, they're fun bollards, I guess. Ice cream bollards. Yeah, well, I guess
That's
we know
charitable.
our
That's
bollards in our
charitable.
district.
It looks like the poop emoji.
Yeah,
That's what I was thinking.
yeah, that's what I thought too.
I would write ice cream on that baller just to eliminate any conversation on it.
Somebody in marketing didn't vet this one.
You know,
Boy, oh boy.
I wanted people to know, I came across this. Did you know there was a World Bollard Association? And I had no idea. But they're celebrating 50 million followers. If you want to see some hysterical postings, go to just search them in Twitter. Unbelievable film footage, especially some of it from Europe. It's amazing to watch but the designs of the different there are so many things that are hysterical about it. That I'd never thought of bollards that way. I never knew there was that kind of following of bollards. But here's our ice celebration. Anyway, thank you all, and see you at full board next month.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Yeah, Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New
Thanks
Year.
so much for letting me crash your
New Year.
committee. Good
Sure.
night, Betty.
Okay, so
Yeah, you're-
Betty, the meeting is officially called to close.
Please, yes.
Okay.
Hey,